You guys, boy do I have the haul for you. In my heart, it is of these like cute little candies. TJ Maxx, we got these tree collars.
These little gnomes are so stinking cute for Christmas decorations. You can get them in the 3-pack or you can purchase them individually.
Boy, oh boy, do we have a topic of discussion today. Oh my goodness. Alrighty, everyone, hello, and welcome back to another episode of my nonsense. And definitely also Bilok's nonsense. Bilok, who's being a very bad boy lately because he really wants to flirt with my slippers all the time. He really likes these slippers, and he gets violently angry if I take them away, and if I don't know, I stop him from hooing at them. Bilok is my pigeon, and he's a very goofy little boy. Hi, B.O.B. And so if you hear any hoodles and doodles up there, that is him. Oh, there he is! See, here's the thing, right? When I say I'm a Christian witch, the Christian part of that is not decorative. And I have a lot of feelings about, you know, my religious background, my faith tradition, and all of the many parts of it, the cultural part, the actual religious part, the whole thing, everything in between. And I also have a lot of thoughts about the many people who try to turn it yet again into another capitalistic free-for-all, thus destroying the very feelings they are trying to capture, ironically. I've been watching a lot of content about overconsumption in influencer culture, so it's been very interesting to me. I've also done something kind of similar to this in the past with a video on, like, specifically Christian overconsumption with, like, stupid shit like Bible pillows and whatever else. And so, as we get deeper and deeper into December, this just feels like a great time to bring this up, because it does seem like a lot of what people are mistaking for the Christmas magic really is just a bunch of consumerist nonsense in disguise, which it's been for a long time. But nonetheless, before we get into all of that, hello again, my name is Sarada Streisand. I am a Christian witch, a content creator, educator, writer, specifically a writer of this book right here, Discovering Christian Witchcraft, which, if you heard me say Christian witch and you stepped back and said, "What, madam?" I understand. I get it. Okay, I know. It's a difficult thing. It doesn't make any sense, especially at first pass, if it's the first time you're hearing of it. And if you've been taught your whole life, like many people are, that witchcraft is some like Hollywood spooky demon situation from hell. That's exactly what the book goes over. What these verses that you're no doubt Googling right now actually mean when it comes to the Bible and all that, what the actual tradition past the Bible and the Christian framework of it is, and a lot more. What? What is your problem? What is your issue? So if you are curious about that stuff, I definitely recommend you go and check that book out. Also keep in mind that its sequel is coming out at the end of December 30th, which that is a whole separate can of worms. That is the Intermediate's Guide to the Mystic Journey, which really anyone who's doing any kind of like occultism, witchcraft, or self-directed spirituality, I feel like is going to fall into at some point. So helpful to know about that. But nonetheless, if you are not ready to go and grab any kind of print material right now, that's fine. Just go ahead and like this video, subscribe, and ring the bell, because we do post videos here every single Friday. And if you want to get these videos 2 weeks early and ad-free, all you got to do is go to my Patreon and subscribe to one of those tiers there, where you can get these videos and a whole lot of other stuff that I post every single week. Anyway, when it comes to Christmas, a lot of us have some very specific iconography when it comes to Christmas, right? We have, of course, our classic things like the Christmas tree, like mayhaps the nativity set, like the Advent wreath, and, you know, all of that kind of, depending on your aesthetic and depending on whatever it is that you happen to enjoy, you might have a more like red and gold, big boisterous Christmas theme. You might have a more wintry Christmas theme like I like to have, because I keep my stuff up all the way until spring. You might have specific motifs that you like. Some people like gnomes, some people like the weird pickup truck thing, I really like gingerbreads. And to this day, these stupid pillows are going to be one of my favorite things that I've bought for myself in my own home, because look at them, they're so dumb. And more than that, there's a lot of fun activities and traditions that come into the Christmas season, right? Baking all of our cultural recipes. For me, that's petitsa, which is a Slovenian nut roll, right? Or, you know, making our favorite meals again, having that Christmas dinner. My fiance's family is Ukrainian, and for a long time we would get together on Christmas Eve. We would have, you know, the salmon and the ushka with the clear borscht, you know, the without any of the guts in it, all that kind of stuff. We'd have all that kind of fun stuff, and it just gave a sense of rhythm because it was a continuing tradition that happened all the time. Baking cookies, going out, you know, rewatching all of our favorite movies, maybe seeing things like the Nutcracker, reading our favorite Christmas tales. For the more religious inclined, right, observing St. Nicholas's Day, or, you know, participating in the tradition of the Advent wreath, lighting those candles, doing those prayers every week. All of that just contributes to this sense of, again, of rhythm, of place, of settling into that end of year vibe. It reminds us that it's time now to really put the worst of the year behind us and just be merry, be generous, be happy, be with our loved ones, and just really sink into that magic of the season. However, as you might, as you might imagine, this year a lot of people are not feeling the magic. They're not feeling the Christmas magic, and that is due to a lot of unfortunate things. There are a lot of people who cannot afford the Christmas magic. A lot of people who, like in the you know, Christmas future part of A Christmas Carol, are not having a great time. Are not able to afford things, are not able to even partake in some of their usual traditions, who have to scale back because the situation right now, not only in America, but honestly kind of globally, is not great. And it's hard to get festive and stay festive when not only do you not have any money left over and you're already choosing between paying bills or buying food, but then you also go online and watch influencers spend what could potentially be life-changing money for a lot of people on entire new aesthetics for their Christmas decor. Right away, before anyone starts, because I don't want to hear it, yeah, sure, it's a free country, still technically, sort of on paper at least, and you can go ahead and spend your money however you want, right? I'm not going to come to your house and stop you from spending your money however you want. However, especially for all these influencers who want to put on this clean girl and specifically Christian aesthetic, to run around and spend that kind of money on decor that is cheap and poorly made and probably going to end up either in a landfill or in a thrift shop within the next year, for me, it is kind of a wonder, a question if maybe you could take some of them $1,000 Target hauls or whatever and spend it on people in need instead. At least if for nothing else, you could help someone else have a good Christmas who doesn't have the ability to just redo their entire gigantic ass house every single year. But this is a factor of overconsumption, is that people are trying to sell you that, you know, that deeply ingrained sense of Christmas spirit and joy and tradition and mirth, rather than simply embody it, right? They're trying to sell you the cheap facade of it through all this decor. And not only that, they try to make that feeling perfectly manicured and perfectly lined up, all cute and nice for social media, to make their aesthetic edits and all their nice videos and show off all their stuff. For instance, you know, we've got videos like this one where this lady is talking about, you know, trends that are going on with whatever.
Here are the top 5 Christmas trends of 2025 as somebody who has been a trend forecaster for the past decade, and also as somebody who just has eyes. The first one you've all been seeing everywhere, I know it, unless you've been living under a rock quite literally, and that is the Ralph Lauren Christmas. It's classic, it's traditional, it feels familiar. Anytime we are going through uncertain socioeconomic times, we as a people usually revert back to nostalgia and traditionalism because it just feels safe and welcoming and something familiar to us. So this makes a whole lot of sense. And today, with more mass-produced items, it feels like something that is really rich and maybe once felt unachievable feels achievable now for the average person. So it's very appealing. And whether you think it's overdone, it's overhyped, you can't deny that it is a really beautiful aesthetic and it's here. And I do predict it to be here to stay for at least the next couple of years. The second trend is florals. I feel like I am seeing so many more floral trees, floral heavy garlands, floral arrangements this season, which I absolutely love to see. This inspired actually my own Christmas tree this Christmas, and I am just all about this trend. I just think it is so enchanting and stunningly beautiful. I also love this look because it is very DIY leaning. If you have a hydrangea bush, you can go out and pick off your own stems, dry them out, and put them in a beautiful arrangement. If you have a magnolia tree, you can go clip off your magnolias, go forage pine, cedar, juniper, whatever it may be. I just think that these are so romantic, enchanting, and just stunningly beautiful, and you can almost kind of give them an undone, wild, avant-garde look about them, which I am really, really enjoying. I mean, this is just absolute Christmas tree perfection to me. It is stunning. The next trend is nostalgic maximalism. It's almost like this very undone, very messy, everything but the kitchen sink type of Christmas decor that, again, I really enjoy. It feels cozy, it feels sentimental, and it really lets you and your family's personality shine. I also love this trend because it is very DIY leaning as well. I love making your own paper chains, your own paper stars, and just really having like a craftsmith-esque feeling to it. Next, I've been seeing quite a bit of a glam Christmas, which I really love to see. I love a simple tree with nothing on it besides maybe some silver ornaments or icicles. I think it is so classy and just really looks special. And speaking of silver, lots and lots of silver, which I love. And also incorporating a lot of red satins and tonal reds as well, like this. And lastly is just a traditional green and red Christmas. And because we've deviated so far for so long from this look, it feels really fresh and modern to me, especially if you go for something a little less cherry red, not for an oxblood or a burgundy, and then layer in lots of different foliage into your greenery. Okay, so that's it for my 2025 Christmas trends. Let me know, are you going to be participating in any of these trends? And have you been seeing any that I didn't mention?
We also have, right, like, just other overviews of trends. We have people who see something online and run out to buy a bunch of stuff to go and try and recreate the trend. We have people doing different kinds of Christmas, right? Some of it is the Ralph Lauren Christmas. Some of it is the white gold Christmas. Some of it is Pinkmas, which is just everything pink and kind of, I guess, gingerbready. There are so many different iterations of it, and it's constantly being pushed towards us, all while that little buy now shop link on TikTok Shop floats in people's faces. A lot of these influencers showing off all their hauls and all the junk they bought. A lot of them have stuff linked on their Amazon storefronts. They have it linked on their TikTok Shop or whatever the hell else, because they're trying to make extra money, extra commission, and everything else. And they really could give a damn about the whole Christmas spirit. They just want to generate that GMV, them sales, as TikTok calls it. And that is troubling because one of the things about like Christmas decor that makes it, again, feel like not just stuff to put out, but feels like a push pin in the rhythm of the year is the fact that usually you have decor that's built up over a long time, right? Like my decor right now, yeah, everything's decorated nice and cute, but there are pieces I've bought years ago and that I put out every year and that I look back on, and I remember when I got them. I remember a lot of the stuff, right? When I had to move out into this apartment in the begin with, I had to go pick new stuff because I didn't have any of my own stuff, and now it's my stuff. It's stuff that I bought at stores that don't exist anymore, like Christmas Tree Shop. It's stuff that I bought with my mom, right, when we were going around and talking about it and thinking about it and reminiscing ourselves on the kind of stuff that we liked, on the kind of stuff that my Oma used to like, all that kind of, everything like that. They are pieces that have memories attached to them and they mean something to me, and putting them out every year gives me that sense of, again, stability, right, tradition, a push pin in the year, in the moment. If I'm gonna get new stuff every year, it's usually gonna be like 1 or 2 new Christmas ornaments, which eventually, when I get a bigger place or a house or something, and I get a bigger tree, will add together into a nice little mishmash collection. I'm not out here trying to do everything from the ground up at once. One big thing we're all overlooking here is that it's not really about the decor to begin with. The only Christian decor Or Christmas decor, if you are doing this of the religious variety that you would really need, is a nativity set, right? The nativity set being that kind of picturesque display of the birth of Christ. And then like a Christmas tree, really, which you can do that whether or not you're religious, that's fine. But that's kind of like the quintessential like Christmas activity, is decorating the tree and making that like a whole daily project and just having fun with that. That in itself is a tradition, because it's not just the tree, it's the activity. It's doing it with your family. It's having fun. It's looking at it and hiding other traditions in there, like the Christmas pickle, which is kind of, I have a Christmas pickle. It's not really something that works when you only have 2 people and one of them knows where it is, but still there just for the sake of remembering that the tradition exists, I guess. All of this decor, when I see these videos of people who just have like 1,000,002,002 different little tree statues, or when they have like multiple different trees in their house with different themes, it doesn't make any sense to me. It doesn't make any sense. It's over the top. It's all of this like extra stuff that no one actually needs. It's a bunch of junk that like God even knows where these people store this stuff, because like it's such a waste of space when it's not actively out and set up. It's also just, again, unnecessary. How many nutcrackers do you need? How many little tree statues do you need? How many different ornaments or trees or different things do you need? Why does everyone suddenly have these weird ass bows on their cabinet? Who knows? What I do know though is that this stuff, it is explainable. And there are a few studies actually that are really interesting that I think y'all might like, that I will link down below, that talk a bit about it. I'll read you a little bit of them, but so one from the Search Journal has a little bit on FOMO marketing, FOMO meaning fear of missing out. And from the abstract alone, you can see they talk about how the study that they've done here identifies TikTok Shop's surface interface design as a critical amplifier of FOMO-driven consumption, particularly through its real-time viewer counters, social validation metrics, like shares counts, and algorithmically prioritized peer activity feeds. These technical elements interact with users' psychological need for self-presentation, creating a feedback loop where social comparison processes intensify impulsive purchasing tendencies. So if that sounded like a lot, basically what it's saying is social media and obviously influencer culture, influencer, right, the operative word, they're being influenced, they operate on this very like social mechanism. We as a social species, as a group that prioritizes belonging and a sense of being with the in-group and being acknowledged and having a place in society, whether it be our families, whether it be like, our communities, whether it be schools, whether it be whatever, we create these spaces where we want to feel included and we want to feel recognized and we want to feel seen. And things like social media, in this case specifically TikTok with the TikTok Shop, they really push this this kind of compulsive need to be in the in-group by showing people a lot of, targeted stuff that shows up on their For You page, people who maybe are aligned with their interests, right? Other creators and stuff who do stuff that they want to do, and therefore they kind of start developing this parasocial aspect with. And when they see someone that they can identify with doing something, they end up wanting to do it too, because they don't want to be left out of a trend or a phenomenon or something that looks fun that everyone else is doing. Honestly, this is like elementary school playground physics 101 to me, really, where it's just kind of like, one kid by himself sees a bunch of other kids having a good time and obviously wants to go over and also have a good time with them. But also from that study, which is really interesting, is bringing up Maslow's hierarchy of needs. If you've ever seen this pyramid, right? It's not like the most accurate model for social behavior, but it does kind of give us some idea of how people work, right? Which is obviously, you got to take care of your base needs first, your food, your shelter, your water. After that, you can start getting more and more abstract with your priorities. So once all the basic stuff is handled, you free up your mind to then think about stuff like security, right? Like employment and stuff like that. And then after that's settled, you can think more about stuff like social standing and belonging and community and inclusion, all the way up to more cerebral, like really abstract stuff like social welfare and social philosophy and all that other kinds of stuff. And according to this journal on TikTok, they are arguing this. They're saying, rooted in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the investigation positions FOMO as a manifestation of unmet social belonging needs within digital environments. Recent extensions of this framework by contemporary scholars, such as like Jabin et al., have established FOMO as a dual-axis phenomenon. Dual-axis, okay? Comprising both approach-oriented motivations, right? Like, so people's desire for social validation, their desire to be seen and be approved of by their peers, and avoidance-oriented anxiety, so fear of social exclusion. Not only do they want to be accepted and seen and brought into the fold, they're very afraid of being left out of the fold, being ignored, being brushed aside. You know, when you're at a party and go to talk to someone, but all their backs are turned to you in their little circle, how do you even broach in there? That kind of feeling. The selection of TikTok Shop as the research context is particularly salient given its algorithmic architecture, personalized For You feeds, real-time engagement metrics, and ephemeral live stream sales events, which amplifies FOMO through engineered urgency and social proof mechanisms. And so this study is also especially looking at like this phenomenon in Asia, Southeast Asia and East Asia, right? Vietnam and other things like that. Vietnam's unique position as Southeast Asia's fastest growing social commerce market, with TikTok Shop capturing 58% of the Gen Z user base, provides critical insights into emerging economy digital consumption patterns. And so they also outline 4 things that trigger people's fear of missing out, that trigger people's need to, you know, suddenly just go grab onto and consume whatever it is that they're seeing pop up on their For You feed from these influencers. And those things are algorithmic personalization intensity. So basically like how relatable someone's For You page is, right? Like how much it really feels curated for them and therefore for them, like that's their thing, it's their community, it's their people that they follow, right? Like their circle. Influencer credibility perceptions. This is something when I teach my students in class when teaching about ethos comes up a lot. So how knowledgeable and how good the influencer is at giving recommendations and stuff. This is something we can get into maybe a little bit later if people are interested, but I have another study about that in terms of taste leadership and expertise leadership, which again, getting a little bit too deep into it now. But coming back, right? So influencer credibility, like how good they are at understanding your interests, at recommending good stuff that you'll like, and so on. Social reward anticipation, like if you get this thing, will other people think that you are trendy? Will they think that you are cool? Will they think that you are up to date? Will they look at it and say, wow, that's really nice, it looks really good, you did good, right? And then also temporal scarcity cues. You need to go get this right now because there's only a few left. Run, don't walk, blah, 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 all that kind of bullshit. All those little speech patterns that suggest like, oh my God, it's the cheapest it's ever been. You have to get it right now. All of those trigger people's compulsion to buy. And what's even more interesting is that this study also outlines ways to combat this and ways to get people to not waste their fucking money all the time, which are exactly the opposite of what marketing tells us to do. So this study is saying, hey, to get people to slow down and not overconsume so much, we might add more friction to the buying process, like more buttons to click on, more ways to, more opportunities to think twice before getting to the checkout option. We might think of putting up a dashboard that shows you how much you're spending in a month, so you can kind of see that in real time and realize that like, oh, all those little purchases are adding up, all that kind of stuff. And in marketing, that's the opposite. This is why TikTok Shop, especially at its outset, works so well, was because it removes all barriers to purchase. I can tell you myself, as someone who does have to live in this capitalist hellscape and does have to sell stuff, that yeah, last year TikTok Shop was awesome for me because instead of telling people, hey, if you want this book, click on my profile and then click on my link tree and then click on my website and then click on my shop and then click on the product page and then add it to your cart and then go to your cart and then check it out. It was just right there on the TikTok video. They could click that orange shop link and buy it right there. Reduced so many steps in the purchasing process that led to so many more sales. And this study also recommends algorithmic transparency, as in like showing people that like, hey, these influencers don't actually know you. It's just that you've curated your For You page to show you this kind of stuff. So of course it's going to show you this kind of stuff, right? Seems like common sense, but people forget that For You page doesn't mean that everything crosses their fucking desk is for them. That it's an algorithm and it's guessing. And that conversation, honestly, as another slight side tangent for another time, reminds me of a book I started reading called Stories Are Weapons. And speaking of psychology, it's very interesting that Sigmund Freud, who all psychologists who know better love to hate, his nephew was a really, really good marketer because he would use psychology and psychological philosophy and concepts to power his marketing. So that feels like it ties directly into this, where this need for social inclusion, this need for recognition in one's circle with how visible and public and just in everyone's face everything is, creates this need to perform, right? To perform one's aesthetic, to perform one's buying choices, to perform one's trendiness and all these other things, and thus consume a bunch of shit. Another one that goes deeper into that with the attachment theory of social media does insist that, it's part of what creates a parasocial relationship. And a parasocial relationship is a relationship that is not a two-way street. This is really what drives it. This is what drives that social validation and acceptance so much, is that people don't realize that the influencer they're watching has no idea who they are outside maybe seeing the same username and profile picture a bunch, right? So they see this creator all the time saying stuff, they see this creator all the time doing stuff, and they start to think that they are like friendly or that they know or are familiar with this person, but that person has no idea that they exist, and to that creator, that person is just yet more sales opportunities, more money to be made, more likes and shares and follows in their analytics, and so on. So, this study is also saying, as social media influencers endeavor to attract, retain, and engage followers are increasingly attached to the influencers and the influencer communities. This attachment helps influencers to achieve marketing and business success of branding and selling, but in the meantime, may result, as we argue in this paper, in followers excessive use and problematic engagement with the influencers. It's the old imitation's the best form of flattery kind of thing, right? When you see someone that you look up to and you really like and you admire them and the stuff that they do because they just look like Superman with all of their influencing, right? They have this beautiful house, they have all these beautiful decor, they set it up so well. They have, that conventional attractiveness, their skin always looks great, their hair always looks great, they always look so chic and trendy and effortlessly beautiful, blah, blah, blah. You end up getting attached to these people. You end up also wanting to be like them, and therefore maybe one day be noticed by them as well, or to maybe even become someone like that yourself who can also be admired and can also be this kind of fixture, this object of beauty on the other side of the screen. So that was a fun little psychology tidbit for us all, but in essence, when we see all these things and all these people pushing stuff, yeah, of course they're trying to just sell stuff, but the reason it works and the reason it gets people and the reason it infects so many people's idea of Christmas now is because if everyone's doing something and you're the only one not doing it, then you're going to be triggered by all of those things that we just talked about, right? That fear of social exclusion, that need for community belonging and validation, that parasocial relationship that has you wanting to mirror and therefore also maybe one day be recognized by the people you idolize online. All these things mix together into this perfect storm that when an influencer someone really likes says, oh my god, you need this right now, it's on sale, they're so cute, oh my god, your Christmas will not be complete without it, you buy it. And then when you buy all this dumb bullshit that after the season's over is no longer trending and therefore no longer cute or socially in, you throw it away, you end up realizing that you just wasted a lot of money. It's a lot of money you could have spent on yourself for holiday food, for gifts for others, for bills, for all of that kind of stuff. It becomes a situation of comparison too, right? You got so many people who already were struggling this Christmas season, who have now been laid off and who are struggling to even get their kids like 1 or 2 gifts. And then you go online and you see all these influencers with their just infinite, gigantic rooms full of gifts. And you wonder, are you a bad parent? Are you failing your kids in some way? Are you not good enough? What is happening that these people can do all this for their kids and your kid can't have that? Why, what failures have you done that makes this happen, right? That's the, I'm not saying that's like actually what is true. I'm not saying that these people have failed their children in any way by not being able to go and get stupid amount of gifts for their kids, but that's what the culture wants us to think. And that destroys the Christmas magic. because Christmas magic is not about that. Christmas magic has nothing to do with that. As not only a Christian but a witch, the Christmas magic that people are missing, it cannot be bought like that. It cannot be absorbed through materialism. It cannot be captured by static items. And what's really funny, actually, as a witch, is that it does seem like people are trying to do one of the most like basic and simple tenets of witchcraft without realizing it and without understanding it, and that is using objects to represent abstract concepts. It is really funny, right? It is really funny. Just like there are many different types of witches who connect to their sense of self and the divine through different flavors, right? Like you've got your ocean witches or sea witches, you have your green witches, you have your pyromancers, and you have your demonolators or occultists, you have techno witches, you have all these different like flavors of witch that tell you the ways in which someone best connects to themselves and the divine. And likewise, you have so many different flavors and aesthetics and trends and whatever of Christmas. Again, you've got pink mist, you've got white gold, you've got Ralph Lauren, you've got rustic, you've got all this different goofy stuff that tells you how people are trying to connect with the concept of Christmas, how they're trying to represent this abstract feeling of Christmas through stuff. But what they, and often a lot of beginner witches, don't understand is that the objects are not the source of the power or the source of the thing being represented. The orange, for instance, a little orange fruit, is not in itself going to generate for you luck, creativity, or whatever. It is a symbol of it, and it can, with some properties and some elemental and planetary associations, help a little bit, but it has to come from within you to bring that out and focus on that and really activate that concept to do your spell work. Likewise with Christmas, it's not the fucking wooden reindeer, minimalist wooden reindeer, or the plaid throws, or the cute Christmas pillows, or whatever, that are actually going to bring out the feeling of Christmas. It's you who's going to bring out the feeling of Christmas by perhaps, yes, having some symbols of what you're trying to capture, but mainly through your actions, through your expending of energy, through your attention and where you're choosing to let it rest throughout the season. And from a Christian standpoint, I find this weird need to overconsume like this to be anti-ethical to Christianity's message to begin with. Jesus didn't say that you needed stuff. In fact, he many times said the opposite, and other people after Jesus in the New Testament, like the letter to James, also said the opposite, said that stuff and wealth and all this stuff, it's not gonna help you do anything, right? It's all going to be moth-eaten at the end of the day. It's going to be rotten away and buried in the ground somewhere when you die. You can't take any of this bullshit with you, and you bet your ass heaven isn't changing Christmas aesthetics every year with some nonsense. So this whole focus on like, oh, but I need this and the trend and this and that, it robs you of your focus on what is actually going on here in the season. Not to, not to sound like everyone that is annoying, but the reason for Christmas is in fact Jesus. The reason for this season is in fact Jesus. This doesn't mean that it hasn't become largely secularized or something that can be had with different like connotations or can be, you know, repurposed for people who are not Christian, which we will actually talk more about next week. But it does mean that like if you're a Christian, especially going into Christmas, and your focus is on buying reindeers and fucking Christmas tree ornaments and nutcrackers and blah, 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 maybe step back and consider that, like, again, the only thing you really need is, like, the nativity set, an Advent wreath, and maybe a Christmas tree. Advent wreath and nativity set are really, like, the quintessential Christian objects to have in the house for Christmas time. And everything else is optional. Jesus says so explicitly in Matthew 6:24 to the end. Ironically, the verses that Christians always tell me to read when I'm saying that I'm a Christian witch. He says you can't serve God and money. He says that it's the Gentiles, as in like the non-Jewish folks, right? Gentile just means anyone who isn't Jewish. It's the non-Jewish folks, it's the Gentiles who seek after all these things, money and clothing and food and blah, 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 because they don't understand that there is something higher than existence than just that, right? Is not the body more than clothing, all that kind of stuff. It's Jesus who reminds us that there is an inner thing, right? That the kingdom of heaven is not out there, it's not down here, it's not over there, it's within us. We are the ones who, through our actions, through our energy, through our conscious focus and effort, bring this spirit, bring this feeling, bring this joy and all these other things into fruition. It doesn't come from outside of us. It doesn't come from objects. It doesn't come from things. It comes from us. And these things that we do have, this decor or whatever, they help anchor us, but they do not inherently generate that feeling. Moreover, because people are so obsessed with materialism and so obsessed with getting all this different stuff every year, with constantly having to buy, it makes people spiritually sick. It makes people forget. It distracts them. It makes them fall asleep. It makes them unaware of like the things that they should be focusing on. Again, those abstract concepts: joy, love, peace, hope, like the Advent wreath represents. Also focusing on, goodwill to one another, charity, sharing with others, making sure everyone can eat and drink and be merry. Moreover, this materialism is, honestly, it's a byproduct of the Protestant work ethic and prosperity gospel, right? The Protestant work ethic being something that started way back with like John Calvin and all them, and insisting that Christians have this moral obligation to work and then use their money for responsible things, which eventually came into, so if you have a lot of money, it means that you are being a good Christian because you're being responsible and you're being, diligent and working hard, which then became prosperity gospel with, if you have a lot of money and a lot of things, then it means God has blessed you and you're extra special and extra holy compared to everyone else. Bang, bang, bang. You can see how we basically just fell down the theological stairs there and banged our head every time down the way. We've completely forgotten that earthly riches aren't a sign of a goddamn thing, and that the more stuff you have does not necessarily mean that you are trendier, does not mean you are better, does not mean you are holier, does not mean you are better at doing Christmas. It just means that you had a lot of disposable income that you decided to use in honestly a stupid fucking way. Again, I'm not going to crash through your windows all SWAT team style and tell you what you can and can't do with your money. I will say, though, that especially if you are someone who's really interested in Christianity and being Christian, that I might remind you to be Christian and not just perform Christianity. That I might remind you that all the money you might have wanted to spend on stupid things, you can instead take that dollar amount. Like, actually, here's a good exercise right here. Go to TJ Maxx or Target or wherever you want to go. Put everything in your basket that you would want to buy, tally up the cost, and then take that money and donate it. That's an influencer challenge I'd love to see. Because otherwise, I mean, it is hurting people. It is hurting people to go and do this kind of stuff. As we've seen in my discussion of these studies, people say, oh, how I spend my money doesn't hurt anyone. Not if you just spend it and shut the fuck up about it, but if you spend your money on all this stuff, all this performance, basically, and then you perform it, and then you put it out there for people to see, yeah, actually it does do harm. It does harm. It does a lot of harm. A lot of these influencers have money that a lot of other people don't have. When you look in the comments on a lot of videos, you'll see that they're saying, oh, I always have no money because of these videos. I always go out and spend. Sure, the influencer didn't break people's arm to go spend money, but as we've discussed through these little studies about FOMO marketing and everything else, people are being influenced, hence influencer, to go do things in order to feel like a part of a community that maybe they can't actually afford. We've got people going into debt over Christmas. You've got all this kind of stuff going on. It is harmful. It's harmful to you because it makes you spiritually sick to be in this over-consumerist mode, to be just acting like things make Christmas what it is and not Christmas. It hurts your family because that's a lot of money. I mean, some of these halls are fucking expensive, and it's a lot of money you could have spent on yourself and your family in terms of food and gifts and whatever else. It hurts your community because it adds a lot of social pressure that is not good to be putting on, especially people who don't have those means. So you either have people spending above their means and ending up in financial trouble for it, or people who know better than to do that, but then feel crestfallen because they feel like they failed their family in some way, and that just leads to a lot of social ill in and of itself. Mental health crisis is real, people, and it's not getting any better in this fucking economy. So actually, I'll argue that it does hurt people to use your money however you want if you're using it in these kinds of ways for exactly the reasons I just mentioned. We're not going to go into it again. You can just back up a couple minutes and listen to it again. But with all that said, What are my recommendations then as a Christian and a witch together to get into this situation? Well, if you really want to bring back the Christmas spirit, I will remind you actually of a movie that I think people forgot the main message of, right? If we look at How the Grinch Stole Christmas, especially that old school 1966 animation, we find that in this movie, how we can bring this Christmas spirit back is so simple. Y'all have likely seen the movie, or at least you know who the Grinch is, but, as a quick synopsis, this is a story about this creature named the Grinch who lives by himself in this friggin' hovel up on a mountain somewhere with his little dog, and he's always disgusted at the Who's down in Whoville, who are always, clasping their hands together and singing around this big-ass Christmas tree every Christmas. He thinks this is disgusting, this is stupid, this is ridiculous, and he gets this idea one day to disguise himself as Santa and ruin Christmas for everyone, because if he's not going to be happy, then fuck it, no one should be. And so he goes and he does the whole thing. He's got a little dog dressed up as a reindeer, he's going down the sled, all that kind of stuff. And he takes everything away. He takes down the decorations, he takes away the presents, he takes people's Christmas trees away. One poor little who comes out, right, little Sally over there or whatever, sees him and is like, oh my god, Santa, and he sends her back to bed, whatever. But he does that whole thing in the cover of night, and then he takes all the shit away, and then he hides up on that mountain to watch and see what the people do. He's waiting to see if people cry, freak out, scream, and feel all kinds of sadness like he does in his daily life. But then, against all odds, the people come out on Christmas Day and they link hands again, and despite the fact that there's no Christmas tree, they start doing their song and dance. They start doing the whole thing, and then it's the literal shining spirit of Christmas itself that comes down and just kind of casts itself all over the village and all over the people. And seeing the real meaning of Christmas, the real Christmas spirit with all of these illusions of the tree and the decorations and the presents stripped away, the Grinch finally understands. His heart grows 3 sizes. And then he does kind of become a Santa. He comes back down the mountain with all the stuff and he gives all of it back. All of the gifts, all of the tree, all of the stuff, he gives it all back. And he becomes part of the community in that way. He puts himself in there. He finally gets it. He joins that fold. That reminds me a lot of apophatic mysticism, which is the process of negation, of taking things away until we really reach the absolute bottom of the abyss that is the divine in all its infinity. It reminds me of that, but it also reminds me of the fact that again, none of these things are actually needed for the Christmas spirit. The Who's were going to be out there one way or another, which is what we find out, that it had nothing to do with any of this stuff and always had to do with that spirit of community, holding hands together, singing together, enjoying the town and everything else like that together. So following that model, I really feel like the way in which we can bring back the Christmas magic has nothing to do with what bullshit you can buy from Target and TJ Maxx. Has nothing to do with what decor you can buy or what the hell the influencers on TikTok are saying that you need this season. And it has everything to do with digging deep into your memories of your childhood. If you have a good childhood, this will be easier. If you had a rough childhood, God bless you, I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. But you can still borrow from maybe other people's concepts of childhood Christmas joy and create it now for yourself. And that is to look at traditions, right? Not just stuff, but look at traditions, activities. For me, things that define Christmas for me: baking cookies, decorating, making those cultural meals, hanging out with my family on Christmas Day. There's a little bit of St. Nicholas jazz, maybe. Going to see Christmas lights in light festivals. Going out to Christmas markets or, other kinds of events that are out there. Listening to my favorite Christmas music that I really don't listen to except for this time of year. In a religious sense as well, doing the Advent wreath, right? Putting out frankincense, myrrh, and a little bit of gold by the nativity set, because I have that stuff on hand. that kind of thing. Reflecting on the story of Jesus's birth and what it means, all the syncretic elements of it. Also for me, it's giving to charity, right? Donating to Toys for Tots, which is, a thing that I'm doing yearly. Donating to some kind of toy drive fund on St. Nicholas Day is what I like to do. I'd be extra generous, right? Like take my friends out to eat or buy them a drink or something, and just spread that kind of cheer and joy and love. Also reflecting on the themes of the season, right? It's not just that like, oh yay, Jesus was born. Jesus is the light in the darkness. Jesus is the light of the world. He is born into this world in this crazy situation, and he is a promise of better times to come. In this dark season where it's cold and things are dying and everything is just so rough, it's the end of a long and exhausting year, this reminds us to be happy, not just because we're told to, but literally to spite the darkness, to look at all the terrible bad things happening, to look at all of this darkness around us and say, not only am I going to hold a little candle against this darkness, I'm going to hold a big, beautiful, roaring hearth fire to spite that darkness. When that darkness tries to crush me down, I'm going to be extra merry. I'm going to be extra generous. I'm going to be extra joyful. I'm going to be extra alive, basically. I'm going to live all the harder when this darkness wants me dead. Like, that's a powerful sentiment that I think brings back the spirit of Christmas, which is not only to survive the darkness, but to thrive in it and to shine so bright that the darkness cannot stand us. So bringing in those nostalgic bits, right? Bringing in old decor from your childhood. For instance, like I have a little wooden Santa thing that my dad bought for me the year after I was born at a local art festival. I have that up here now. It's something I've seen my whole life, and it kind of reminds me of that stuff again. I have my Oma's Christmas cup. My Oma is, she's gone now, she's passed away, but my mom gave me her cup, and so when I drink from that cup, I think of my Oma. I have all these little tiny, traditions and little tidbits and things that all together come together into one big feeling of goodwill and love for my family, for my loved ones, and just for people in general. Like, maybe I bitch a lot on social media, and maybe I always look like a little pissed off on social media because there's always something I gotta friggin' bitch about. But in real life, I'm actually very smiley and nice, holding the doors open for people and getting the occasional little, small talk quip and smiling at people, I love people, and so being able to love people all the more and really capture that merriness, that Christmas spirit that way is awesome. It's great, and it's not something you can buy at a fucking store like Target. Read Christmas stories, watch your favorite Christmas movies, right? Reflect on the nativity story. Do tarot with your gods or with God, right? Do all these things, connect with the divine, connect with other people, help other people have a good time, extend what charity you can, extend what generosity you can. And if you don't have any charity to give, don't feel bad about that. And if you don't have any money to spend on gifts, don't feel bad about that. That's not your fault. That's not your failure. This is society's failure because we should all be giving back to each other and helping everyone, again, not only survive, but thrive in these dark times. These are ways I think we can bring back that Christmas spirit, to make it feel old school again, to make it feel nostalgic and traditional, to make it feel hopeful again, is to get back to the roots and stop being distracted by all the glitter of the stuff. There's no need for all this stuff. And there's no need to be tricked by influencers who don't know you and don't give a damn about you, who tell you that you must have, you need, blah, 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 all this nonsense. You don't need it. It's nonsense. You know that you don't have to follow trends. You don't have to look like other people. You don't have to decorate like other people. That just putting up a decoration does not a Christmas feeling make. Moreover, there's a serious problem with Christians trying so hard to over-Christian their holidays that they end up doing egregious, terrible things, which is something that we'll have to talk about more next week. Until then, I hope this does, help with whatever little bit of, December and winter is left, give you an idea of how you can ramp up that Christmas spirit, that winter spirit, and really focus on the spiritual growth rather than focus on all the shit you're seeing online and everywhere else. So, with all that said, I wish you guys a great, wonderful weekend, and I will see you next time for more chats. See ya!